Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Excalibur Data Systems Roundtable Tech Talk. I am Mike Fuson, and I'm joined today by Will Barrows from CG4. Will, thanks for joining me.
Hi, Mike. Good to be here.
It's always fun to get together and talk about CG4 and talk about asset tracking and IT asset management in general. One of the things that we had put together on our list was talking about some of the common processes that customers go through. And one that we've had a lot of conversations about that a lot of customers don't necessarily have as defined a process for is equipment disposal. Equipment's lasting longer than it ever has before. Where we're getting, 5 years out of a laptop where we used to get 3, or even longer out of, servers and blades and all of the toys that sit in the data center. But there is a process that we need to go through for effective disposal. Talk to me a little bit about what you've seen and how people have leveraged CG4 for effective and appropriate disposal of equipment.
Well, it's really common to come to a customer and have them talk to us about, they don't even know if some of their inactive assets are still in the facility or not. And so it really is important to track what you're disposing of and what the status is. And, the accountants would probably chime right in and say, exactly, because we're paying for software licenses that we don't need. We're paying property tax on equipment that we've long since retired. And so there's tons of good reasons to track, your disposals and just kind of make everything more clean and tidy. But as far as the process of disposing of assets, it varies from customer to customer. So they, more of a secure customer, they would say, all right, we're going to take the hard drives out of this laptop or this PC. And then the first step is to take that hard drive and maybe degauss it so that, there's nothing there. And then the second step might be, actually physically shredding the hard drives. And then the third step would be to, maybe take the shell of the asset and give that to the disposal vendor or whoever's picking up the equipment. And so it can be, many steps that, that creates their whole disposal process. And you can have CG4 capture each step so that you are confident that you've done all of your desired steps. And you can even have, the step 2 module check to make sure that step 1 has been done so that you don't try to, accidentally skip over step 1. And so that just really helps when you've got a multi-step disposal process and up into including loading it onto the truck at the end.
Well, and you're so right. For many organizations, there may be a fiduciary or a regulatory component being able to track proper and safe destruction. And there are companies out there that do this, that will take the old equipment, certify hard drives as destroyed, or even full equipment as destroyed. And much of this is recycled today. But at the same time, some organizations may go through a process of safe data destruction, and the equipment has some potential useful life and may donate it. I know for some of our governmental agencies, stuff will get donated and schools will use it for different purposes, or other community organizations can leverage the equipment, but they've got to have they taken the step to ensure proper data destruction. And that could be up to and including shredding hard drives, or it could be proper degaussing or a proper overwrite, DoD level overwrite of the hard drive where the data is not going to be recoverable, even in a laboratory environment, and the data has been safely destroyed. So what are those steps that they're going to go through? How are they going to do it? And being able to, as you said, track all of that, having CG4 help you to do that. I mean, one of our previous episodes, we talked about like RFID tags. And one of our clients recently was saying, we've got the equipment for disposal rack that we have. And once we get the rack kind of full of laptops that need to go, they will go ahead and, contact the vendor and say, hey, we're going to be ready for you guys to make a visit over and pick this stuff up. And that was one of the things we talked about in that process is, well, as it's transferred to that vendor, can we then track, like you said, all along the process? Okay, it's been put into a retired state and it's ready for disposal. And then it's been transferred to the vendor, and then they get the disposal certification back. That closes that loop of retiring that piece of equipment, from their inventory. And but being able to leverage CG4 to very quickly track, okay, all of the ones that we have moved into this state, are they all on the rack, or did one fall off or get set somewhere and not put on the rack? And all those little things that can potentially create an issue, especially if they're in a high regulatory or some sort of other fiduciary requirement, and all of a sudden you don't know where one of the laptops went, and they may have to self-report or mark it lost or stolen, and go through proper reporting procedures. It helps you make sure all of the processes are followed, but makes it easier to do them, because I can only imagine, without being to leverage CG4 and RFID or barcode tags and scanning stuff, that would be kind of a paperwork pain in my mind. If you're relying on the vendor to tell you everything you gave to them, and then checking that against what you should have, you should know what you're giving to the vendor, and that you should be getting the same list back. But it really helps with that IT asset management process.
Yeah, you don't want to run into a situation where your boss or an auditor is sitting there looking over your shoulder saying, "Where is this laptop?" Depending on your organization, it could be more critical or less critical, but still, it's a problem. You need to have good tracking of where all your stuff is and how it got to where you think it is.
Right, because you don't know what device has what sensitive data on it. As we've seen the stories over and over and over again of a VA employee's laptop was stolen, or XYZ company's salesperson's laptop was stolen that has a bunch of customer data on it. You get into the encryption and other things to try to protect that data, but now when you're kind of coming out the back end and this stuff is being retired, what are we doing to ensure that no data has been left on that? And you get into organizations that are in healthcare or in finance, they have certain regulatory requirements as to how these items are being disposed of, and minimum standards they have to meet. This lets us far exceed any minimum standards and make it easy for people to do. That's the whole premise behind CG4. Can you do everything CG4 does and do it by hand? Yes, you can. It's not as accurate. It's not as easy. And so the idea is how do we make some of these very painful processes much easier, much more accurate, and it gives you the ability, if you want to check and double check, you can do that quickly and easily without it being complicated. I think of in our episode where we talked about RFID scanners, if everything is RFID tagged and you got it all in a cart, just going, and okay, here's all the devices that are in my, I think you called it a cone, right? In my cone of scanning. Here's everything that's on that cart. Does that match the list of what I expect to be there? And if not, okay, let's figure out why something is missing, and be able to have that process be nice and tight and tidy. Well, Will, it's always fun to get together and talk about these use cases, ways that people are leveraging CG4's asset tracking capabilities to really bring a benefit to their organization. Thanks for joining me today.
It's a pleasure always, Mike.
ExcaliburData.com is our website. Go out there. You can read about and learn about CG4, and we'd love to get together with you. Reach out to us, and we'll get Will or one of his cohorts on the phone, and we can talk about how CG4 can make a difference for your organization and your asset tracking and IT asset management processes. Thanks for joining us today, and we'll see you again soon. Take care, everyone.